Yo, what's good, gang? We're back again with another video, but this time with a new topic. Actually, a new sphere of discussion. This time we're talking about art. More specifically, music. If you aren't already, make sure to sub, like, comment, and share. But without further ado, let's get into it. In this video, we'll be covering one of Pink Floyd's most successful and highly acclaimed pieces to date, The Wall. However, before we get into this, let's break down the grading system and how I rank an album. Firstly, the scoring aspect. For me, I consider every track individually but also collectively. Every track is respectfully its own body of work, but what does it add to the album? And how well does it tackle what the artist envisioned is also factored in. The highest possible grade a track can get is a classic. A classic is worth 1 sum. Then amazing, which is a sum of 0.75. Next, bop, which is 0.5. Followed by light, which is 0.3. Then we have cool/whatever, which is 0.1. Then there's Misc, which is 0. Alright, now we got the rankings down. Let's differentiate them. What makes a classic is it has all the right aspects: superb lyricism, production, mixing, innovative, reinvigorating, etc., with amazing replay value. As for amazing, has majority of the aspects, might be missing one, or possibly seem like a carbon copy of what was a really great track. And bop has most aspects, a lot more similar to a good jam. It's enjoyable, but not much more to it. Next, light has some aspects, maybe not something you willingly spin, but if it's to come on, you might see yourself vibing to it. But overall, nothing special. Then cool/whatever, mostly wasted potential, has a few good aspects, usually a vision being there, but delivery being really poor. Lastly, Misc has little to no aspects, try to be as open-minded to the piece of work, but it never clicked. Not a rating I'll just toss around, so if it's a miss, it's pretty much insufferable. Now, let's go over a few good to knows about the review process. I listen to every album at least 3 times through before reviewing, even if the album is longer than an hour. I'm open-minded and enjoy a variety of genres, so I try to keep my opinions as objectively true to that respective genre, and subgenres are rated as so. I'm not nor ever looking for reactions, clickbait, or trying to get my product out first. More focused on quality and fairness over all things. Lastly, no bias reviews. It's very rare I care what a person did or said. It won't sway my view if I do choose to listen to and review that project. Obviously, there's limits to people I will listen to. If it's just them having differing views, that's fine, as it's constitutional. For instance, a new Kanye album I'll still listen to and review, unless he was actually acting on the things he said. Now, the grading system. I think it's a very simple system, but very effective and consistent. I see a lot of people just throwing random ratings or spitballing numbers, but I try to keep it fair and consistent. The album score will always be out of 10. The equation is total score divided by number of tracks. Once again, using Kanye Bully album, 4 classic tracks, which equals 4. 2 amazing tracks, which gives us 1.5 more. 3 bops, which is also 1.5. And then 1 cool/whatever track, which is 0.1, giving us a total score of 7.1. Total number of tracks on the album is 11, but we're not going to count interludes, so 10. Divide the 2 numbers, you'll get 0.71. After that, simply move the decimal place over, which makes Bully 7.1 out of 10. Alright, we're finally done with that. Now on to the actual review, the album, The Wall, by Pink Floyd. I'll be going down the list of tracks from front to finish. There's an album I've listened to far more than 3 times, but did revisit again the other day. So all reviews will be up to date. Let's peel it back.
1, 2, 3.
Alright, to start it off, the opening track, In the Flesh, ? This is a really great opening to the album. A slow, heavy jam track. I do believe it's carried heavy by production, but sets the tone well for the album and what's to come and the overall theme of the project. Cadence, however, could have been a little bit better. For that reason, I'll be throwing it into the amazing category. Next, The Thin Ice. This track is a little more poetic and a bit somber. Doesn't really pick up towards the end. For that reason, I'll have to go ahead and toss it into the bop category. Next, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 1. This is a slow, introspective track reflecting on his childhood. It doesn't really grab my attention till it turns to ambient sounds and the soft chatters of kids, which sets a nostalgic scene. For that reason, I'll have to put it in the bop category, just a bit under The Thin Ice. Going on to The Happiest Day of Our Lives. There isn't much to say about this one. I just believe it's a poor attempt at southern or country rock. For that reason, I'll have to put it at the light category. As for it is still somewhat of a good tune. Number 5, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2. This one is definitely the best one out of the 3-part series. It's a lot more fluid track than its predecessor, with a complete and consistent theme, rejuvenating and raw energy that contests social norms, and a great tune to jam to, which would put it as a classic and making it our first classic so far into the album. Going on to the next track, Mother. This track is supposed to be deep and reflective, but just doesn't deliver it so. Production, theme, and lyrics don't fit well together. However, all are great individually. For this reason, I'll have to put it in the bop, as it's still somewhat a pretty good track. Track number 7, Goodbye, Blue Sky. This track doesn't have too much to it, but its simplicity done right. Soft tune with a great underlying message, catchy, and the replay value is amazing. For this reason, I'll put it just one under Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, making it our second classic of the album. Going to the next track, Empty Spaces. As the name suggests, this doesn't have too much to it. So for that reason, I won't really delve into it or even really count it. But if I did have to give it a rating, it'd be bop, just slightly above The Happiest Days of Our Lives. Next up, track number 9, Young Lust. This epitomizes soundy rock and roll. Has all the notable features to make it a standout track in the respective time period and today. Great elements are used and the replay value is amazing. For that reason, it will be another classic on our list, putting it above Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 as well. So far, making it the best track of Disc 1. Up next, track number 10, One of My Turns. This track is really enjoyable because it's a slow burn, but when it picks up, it's really, really, really amazing and uses some great elements to bring the track to life and catch your attention. This will also continue the long run of classics that we've been seeing in this album so far, making it the 4th classic, and I'd put it right above Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, but still under Young Lust. Speaking of slow burns, track number 11, Don't Leave Me Now. Much like its predecessor, but even somehow a slower burn. Very beautiful, at least for the last 25 seconds or so. For that reason, I put it in the amazing category, just right under In the Flesh ? And speaking of tracks that are only good for about 25 seconds, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 3. This one is a jaunt. It's very short, sweet, catchy, and that's about all to it. However, it's a really amazing track, and I'd put it just right under Don't Leave Me Now. Going on to the final track of Disc 1, track 13, Goodbye, Cruel World. As the title suggests, this completes Disc 1 of the project, putting a nice little bow and tying everything right back together. Great ending. However, I'd put it in the Bob category as it doesn't contain too much into it. I just think it's a nice way to end the disc. Alright, going on to disc number 2. Track number 1, Hey You. And wow, is this a start to an album? This is just reputable work from start to finish. Very capturing, intricate, layered with so much emotion, visionary, and artistically excelling. For this reason, it's going to be the first classic of Disc 2, starting off strong. Looking into track number 2, Is There Anybody Out There? This is a really beautiful track. It takes a minimalistic approach, but is very pleasing to the ear. For this reason, I'll be tossing it into the amazing category. Speaking of pleasing to the ear, Nobody Home, track number 3. More soothing approach, very immersive and relaxing. This kind of just takes you in and you can just sit down and enjoy it. For this reason, I'll be putting it right above Is There Anybody Out There in the amazing category. Track number 4, Vera. Well, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Not much to take from this track. However, it does work fine. I'll be tossing this into the Bob category. Going into track number 5, Bring the Boys Back Home. The best aspect of this track is probably the title. This is like a Queen track if Freddie Mercury had jaw alignment. For that reason, I'd be putting it into Bob under the Vera track, so far making it the least ranked track. Track number 6, Comfortably Numb. This track epitomizes what a classic is. It does everything well and puts you in a trance, one that makes you feel, as the name suggests, comfortably numb. A track that can universally be accepted as a great track by all music fans. For that reason, I'll be tossing it into the classic category, making it our second classic of disc number 2. However, I'd still put it under Hey You. Going on to track number 7, The Show Must Go On. This is a very basic track and hits you at face value. There isn't too much to take away from it, but however, it's still not a bad track. I put it in the Bob category for that reason. Up next, track number 8, In the Flesh, but this time without the question mark. Safe to say he finally decided on a title. This is a very controversial track, and rightfully so. That aside, it's still pretty great. However, it doesn't add much more to it than a senior track. Maybe Rogers just wanted an excuse to use slurs. All in all, I still put it in the amazing category, as it is still, well, a great track. On to the final 5 tracks of disc number 2. At number 9, Run Like Hell. Good luck trying to make out anything out of here. The production is really loud, and the words just kind of mumble together. However, the track is still very catchy and enjoyable. I put it into the Bop category above the Vera track. Track number 8, Waiting for the Worms. This track is very layered, A bit scattered, but in a good manner. Jumping from one place to the next instinctively makes it all the more appealing and daring. For that reason, I put this as a classic, right above Comfortably Numb. However, still under Hey You. Now, starting the final three. At track number 11, Stop. This track is like 3 seconds, so there isn't too much to say about it, but it's still pretty good. I'd put it above Bring the Boys Back Home. However, still under Vera in the bop category. Now for the second to last track. Track number 12, The Trial. This sounds like a track from a Disney Channel musical, and they substitute a monologue for a character reflecting on his life and put it into music form. Much like Rogers here trying to justify his character as a product of his upbringing. All in all, this just isn't a tune that really sits well with me. The whole genre isn't that great, but I can see why someone might like it or enjoy it. I'd put it into the bop category above Bring the Boys Back Home. However, below Stop. Last but not least, to a well-rounded album, track number 13 of disc 2, Outside the Wall. Closing a cohesive album is always hard, but I think Pink Floyd do a pretty decent job here, kind of tying everything right back together, ending how it started and starting how it ended. But it could have still been a bit better. However, it's still great. For that reason, I put this one in the bop category, right under The Show Must Go On, and above Run Like Hell. As for rating some of the miscellaneous parts of an album that might not seem like they matter, but they totally affect the listening experience. First, album cover is an 8 for me, simple and thorough while fitting the intended theme. The second, transitions, 9.5. You really can't tell when the next track starts, which elevates the listening experience and adds to cohesiveness. Third, title, 7. Much like the album cover, easy to remember and simple. 4, creativity. I'd give that one a 9. Really creative as well, giving you a glimpse of Roger's mind and vision into making this project. Usage of obscure objects and elements to do so that fit the theme. If I had one suggestion to give to Rogers and Pink Floyd, it'd be to change the title of anything. Wouldn't do too much in changing the album rating, but I think what Rogers really meant was The Cage. This is sort of the impression Rogers was giving off, or as he explains it, as building a wall to protect himself. I think he was already in that quote-unquote wall and felt safe in that habitat. He was very much aware of the things and changes around him as he tackles themes of war, politics, trauma, self-reflection, societal changes, negligence, failure to reform, rebellion, fame, industry, people's expectations, and really the list just goes on. However, once he comes to terms with it, he can sort of admit he was wrong and sees life for what it was. Due to his social awareness and him feeling like he was put on display for that nature of his character and talent, I think that would align more with The Cage, kind of like an animal, rather than The Wall. Of course, that would inevitably change the album cover as well. Overall, I think this album is pretty overrated. Overrated doesn't always mean bad, per se. The highs are really great, and if you look into it, I do genuinely enjoy most tracks, as a vast majority falls into bop or higher. The listening experience on it is really great. However, the aftermath, after the math, just brings it to be so low. That doesn't mean I disagree with my own rating. The tracks come out to that. When taking other things into account, that is theme, transition, cohesiveness, and all the other details and aspects of an album, I'd possibly put this album up to the 7.5. However, that'll conclude my rating and review on the Pink Floyd The Wall album. Great album. If you haven't heard it, I'd suggest you at least listen to it and give it a shot.